What a do, YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the compilation album by Bubba Sparxxx and DJ Greg Street. Basically, this album is called The New South, and it came out in the spring of 2009. So the concept behind this is I noticed that Bubba Sparxxx took like a 7.5 year gap between The Charm, which had the hit single Miss New Booty on there, until the fall of 2013 with Pain Management. And Wikipedia used to say that that was the only stuff that he had done. But I kind of was curious about that gap just because 7.5 years is quite some time to really take off like that. So I wondered about some of the stuff that Bubba Sparxxx did between that time. And back in February, I found the mixtape that he did, which is called Survive Till You Thrive. So I recommend checking out that review. It's pretty solid mixtape. It's got some hits on there. I would definitely recommend checking out that mixtape and the review. But that's still from 2007 to 2013, still about a 6.5 year gap. So I wanted to see some more stuff that Bubba Sparxxx did between like 2007 and 2013. And Wikipedia listed on Bubba Sparxxx's discography that The New South was another project. Now, originally I thought that that was just like a secret album by Bubba Sparxxx, but it's actually a compilation. It's broadcasting some Southern cats from Bubba Sparxxx's label or something like that. But that's kind of what he was up to in 2009. Because originally he was going to drop an album in 2008. It was supposed to be like the sequel to The Charm, but it never surfaced. The single She Got Me Like Aw Shit was supposed to come out in 2008. That was a song that was released probably to Bubba Sparxx's MySpace and things like that back in 2008, but it just didn't really have a home. That used to irk me. I remember like earlier this year and last year that kind of irked me trying to figure out where that project was home to, and I found this project and I wanted to review it, so now is the time to get that done. So this is kind of the concept behind it. Bubba Sparxxx had a number of songs. He's not on every song on this project, but there's definitely some good ones on here. But one of the more complaints I have about this particular album, this is a pretty solid release, but it's just kind of the fact that it really is a compilation, kind of like a movie soundtrack, where each of the artists only really is on one song. So Bubba Sparxxx is on multiple songs on here. Bubba Sparxxx is on multiple songs on here, and he features on some good ones on here. Jim Jones is on here also one time. But apart from that, each of these artists is very low-key, and I've never heard before of these cats or since from these cats really either. Now, you can click on them. You can find this album on Spotify, and you can probably see some of the other stuff that these guys have done. But I think for the most part, minus Bubba Sparxxx and Jim Jones, who's minus Bubba Sparxxx, I would probably say that there's really not much of anyone who really had much too high, much more of a career as far as that kind of went. It's not to say that these guys are bunk, but it's just this is kind of like the sort of stuff when you listen to movie soundtracks and you get these cats that you just never hear from again. That's kind of the concept. I was kind of hoping that some of these cats on here would just have multiple verses on these songs so you could hear them more than just one song. So the thing about it is it just feels like one shots from each of them. Like, for example, like King South is not on any other songs on here. And J Money, first name, last name is not on any other songs on here. Kenny Knox, Koo the Queen is not on any other songs on here. OGK, Alley Boy, none of these. I mean, most of these folks that I'm listing, you probably haven't heard of in that sheer kind of sense. I mean, if you know about some of these folks, it's props to being able to do that. But I just would have to say it's just kind of the concept that for the most part, they only have one true song conveying them. And I was kind of hoping that some of these cats would get some more dominance so you could see some more of their verses and lyricism and that type of stuff to see how some of them could get some further shine. But it's just too bad that none of them really show up on any other songs as far as that kind of goes. But I mean, obviously this gives Bubba Sparxxx some more downtime. On every song that Bubba Sparxxx is on, he has some really good shine on here, and it's a good concept as far as getting that. But these are, in some cases, I like these songs by Bubba Sparxxx better than a good handful of the songs off The Charm, which was basically his biggest album. But I look after it just being able to say that Bubba Sparxxx basically is probably the shining moment of this project. It's not to say these other there are some songs I recommend from some of these other cats, just because I've never heard from them before, since, or anything in between, any features or anything like that. I kind of feel like most of this is just like a one-shot album. It's just kind of a one and done, and this is all you get, and that's just the beginning, middle, and end of it, which is kind of unfortunate. But I think that's it was somewhat cumbersome just in their execution of not saying, hey, have this person be on a second song, have some of these cats to give them further shine so they could build their shine and that type of stuff and get a bigger reputation. But it's really just one song for each artist on here that conveys what they're about. And that's the biggest detractment from it. But there are some singles on here, so that's kind of the concept. Wikipedia was known to say that there were some singles about it, and I kind of look after it just being able to say and stuff. So the first single is She Got Me Like Aw Shit. The first single is She Got Me Like Aw Shit, and this has Ray J on the hook. This is a vanilla nightclub flash for a regular night out, I would say. It's a stellar, kind of uncommonly heard single, I would say, and it's definitely one to check out if you're looking for some secret Bubba Sparxxx. This is definitely one to check out if you're looking for some secret Bubba Sparxxx songs. It's just got kind of a buttery hook, pretty much one of the best hooks on this album. I do feel like there's another cat that does a decent job with like a hook. It's on the song There She Go. Decent job on there, but for the most part, Ray J has the best hook on this album. This classic vintage Bubba Sparxxx really feels like a MySpace song. This really feels like a kind of glittery, vanilla kind of promo song that you would hear just in some standard nightclub flash, just having standard drinks, just dance club type circa 2008, 2009. This really feels ripped out of November 2008, July 2008, March 2009, that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. This really kind of hit MySpace kind of song as far as that was kind of going. I mean, it almost makes me wonder what the 2008 Bubba Sparxxx album would have sounded like. This is just good. I mean, this is just good. This is just a nice glittery kind of song. It's just a hit single by Bubba Sparxxx that kind of shows what he was up to after he had taken like a sizable gap between Miss New Booty and what he would do later. And really, that was his biggest song. And Heated Up was pretty solid also, but he just kind of vanished after mid 2006. So this is a good example of Bubba Sparxxx in 2008, which is a pretty good hit single as far as that kind of goes. It's just very low key, and it just feels like maybe 2 or 3 out of 10 people would probably know about this song for the most part, maybe even less than that. I'd say maybe 15, 10%, somewhere in that category, probably still regularly recognize this song, I would say. So I just kind of feel like it's a hit song. Definitely was probably a popular bop back in the late 2000s and such, but it's just very uncommon to be talked about. So it's good hookiness. Ray J really does a good job on here. Just kind of clever song, just good sequel to Miss New Booty in a lot of ways. The second single is Beating Down the Block, and this is featuring Dirt Reynolds, which seems like a country artist, country rap artist. Beating Down the Block is a glittery kind of evening stepping out pizzazz, I would say. It's definitely got some good flash on there. It's a Texas-like Southern smoke song, I would say, and it's a good smoking song. So this is definitely one. This reminds me of something that UGK would do, something like Bun B, Pimp C type stuff, Paul Wall, Slim Thug, those type people. This really feels ripped out of Texas. This really feels like a nice one, just talking about syrup sipping and smoking perp and that type stuff as far as that kind of goes. Just an easy kind of one for some glitzy kind of flash, just trunk rattlers, that type of stuff. Just beat, like the song says, beating down the block, just having a good time with that stepping out kind of feel about it. Just an easy kind of bop as far as that kind of goes. Just a real good hit single. Bubba Sparxxx is on here, so it's a good concept as far as getting that. So both Dirt Reynolds and Bubba Sparxxx do a good job with this. Just easily some Southern. This is just easily some Southern smoke worth checking out. So that's kind of the thing. So yeah, that's kind of the thing about it. So basically, to look after some of these, there's 17 songs on here, so there's a lot of stuff to really digest on here. Bubba Sparxxx is probably on like about 5 or 6 songs, I would say. I mean, all of the Bubba Sparxxx songs he's on really help shine through, but like I said, each of these artists is only on the one song that they're on, so you don't really get a chance. If you like a cat and you like a particular song by them, they're not on anything else to help convey them further. So that's kind of the thing, but I'll go ahead and recommend the 8.5, or basically there's 10 songs I recommend, but 2 of them are almost songs. There's 8 full songs I recommend, and then the 2 almost songs and such. So those 8 songs I recommend would be She Got Me Like All Shit, Beating Down the Block, That Is What I Do, Caramel Sunday, Thinking About You, Must Don't Know Me, Both Do That, and the 2 almost songs are There She Go and Busy Counting. So I just would have to say both of them has, and that's how you say it, both of them, it's kind of, it's real Southern to kind of say that. Both of them has Jim Jones on there. This is a solid double up track for a stock regular night out, I would say. It's a stellar bop, but the beat is somewhat plain. So this is just kind of a good example of like a vanilla nightclub bop. It's just kind of one for a regular night of just having some good times, bottles popping, that type of stuff. But, I mean, it's not quite as flashy as She Got Me Like or Beating Down the Block or some of those ones, or Caramel Sunday or some of those type ones. I mean, there's some better ones on here, but I like the concept of hearing this Hustle Boy cat. It's pretty dope that he managed to snag Jim Jones. I think that some of these cats, if they had managed to snag more folks like Jim Jones, like there's a couple cats on here that sound like OJ the Juice Man and Shawty Low, just that kind of breathy kind of vocals that both those cats kind of have. Some of them really sound ripped out of Atlanta. There's a number of songs on here that kind of sound like that. So maybe if they had featured some of those folks, gotten like a Gucci Mane feature, some stuff like that, I think it's not full blown disappointing, but it's kind of like a natch. Just the fact that there aren't more folks like Jim Jones on here. Kind of a natch that there's not more folks like Jim Jones on here. I definitely think that there probably could have been some low key type folks like Waka Flocka Flame, folks like that, Slim Duncan, some of those type folks that could have been on here around this time. I know Bubba Sparxxx probably could have funded the result of getting that done, but it's just kind of, you'd think that maybe the Yin Yang Twins could have showed up on here to really help things out too. They were kind of low key in 2009. That would have been good to have gotten them on there. But yeah, both of them is a good one. Do That's a pretty nice one. This is like a vintage Dirty South bubbler. It's kind of an entry house party set game off kind of song, I would say, and it's some simmering evening fare. So this is pretty nice one. This got kind of like a leery, kind of lazy kind of beat. This really feels like summer heat, this lazy kind of summer evening type bop as far as that kind of goes. This is sort of cut that like Eminem and Cut Calhoun and Tech Nine kind of do as far as just like a lay game down introductory kind of one, just as far as like the kind of kickoff dance kind of vibes as far as that kind of goes, just kind of who I am and blah blah blah, this is what I'm about type stuff as far as that kind of goes. It's a good one to kind of get that. I do like this one. This has Bubba Sparxxx on the hook, so Bubba Sparxxx really helps, you know, give this song a little bit more. Bubba Sparxxx really helps give this song a little bit more feralness as far as that's kind of concerned. But this is actually a pretty good entry one. There's not a ton of songs like this one on here, so this is kind of a rumbler, I would say. But a nice club bop on here is Caramel Sunday. This one feels like a song Lil Boozy would do. This is definitely one that feels like Mouse on the Track produced it, something like that. Just ripped out of 2008. Sounds like Wipe Me Down, some of those type songs. Just a flashy nightclub bop with like a snazzy theme. I definitely feel like this one just has a lot of glitz about it. It's an easy kind of one. Talking about women being like ice cream and Baskin Robbins and some of that type of stuff. Just an easy kind of bop for that sort of thing. It's real catchy and snazzy, I would definitely say. Must Don't Know Me is a pounding house party set it off track. I would say it's a solid dance a bit groove, I would say, and it's a good kickoff song. This is definitely pretty similar to Do That, but just a little bit more dance oriented, a little bit more. I mean, Bubba Sparxxx lays verses on this song. He's with Kenny Knox on here. This is just a pretty good one. This could almost be one that you could hear at like a sports game or something like that, just out and about. This really feels like a house party set, but just kind of more jiviness towards it, where you're just a little bit more riveting and not quite as calm. Maybe not one to have drinks to, because you might spill your drinks a little bit. Just a little bit more thunderous and rumbling, I would say, definitely. But it is a pretty solid house party set. Just sports game, being out and about, just kind of a little bit more rowdy about it. I do like the concept. Just a real thumper. Just really kind of feels like, yeah, this band like that sort of stuff. So Thinking About You has Bubba Sparxxx on here. This is a Bubba Sparxxx solo song. Thinking About You is a Bubba Sparxxx solo song. It has one of the best beats on here. This is like a dizzy, carnival-like club boiler, I would say. It's a good woozy, smoke a few track with like a good weekend type feel. It's a good weekend hit. This is definitely a good one. Just easy one to kind of be pulsating and just kind of feel smoke sessions just really hitting you pretty hard. It's a good kind of party track to really have, get crunk to and that sort of stuff. I mean, it can be nightclub, but it can also be house party. Just an easy kind of one to really feel good and just have some good vibes. Bubba Sparxxx really tore this song apart. Just an easy kind of highlight. And another one that's pretty good is That Is What I Do. That Is What I Do is a pretty jazzy promo song for stepping out and looking fresh, I would say. It's a Bubba Sparxxx solo song, definitely. It's a hit one at that. And this is kind of like some looking fresh gloss, I would say. This is kind of some looking fresh gloss, I would say. And it's got like a lazy night feel. Maybe it feels stoned about it. It's just kind of one where it's kind of emphatic, but it's just kind of a lot more lazed and just malaised about it. It's kind of a more refrain kind of song. That's kind of why I felt like maybe you're kind of stoned as you listen to this, that sort of concept, just being a little bit glazed, just feeling good about it. But it is a nice concept just for a good victory lap and just pretty jazzy kind of promo song. This is just a nice one for stepping out. Just a real jazzy kind of promo song for stepping out, looking nice, just maybe date night, that type of stuff, just having a good setting as far as that kind of goes. Just a good concept of just having a little bit of glitz and just good promo dress to impress type feels, I would say. So that's a nice one. Busy Counting Money is one of the almost songs on here. This is a stock kind of nightclub fare, I would say. It's a money track with some pizzazz, but it's just very low key in terms of regard. I mean, this one just kind of feels like an Atlanta rap cat, someone like Shoddy Low, those type folks, Jada Juice Man, someone like that. It really has a good concept, but it's just, I feel like there probably should have been someone else on here. Maybe someone from Atlanta, maybe one of the Shop Boys or some of those type folks, the folks that did like, like Fast Life Youngsters, some of those type cats, just, you know, some low key cat, maybe Crunchy Black could have been on here. Someone else needed to be on this song to really help this out, but it is a pretty nice one. It's just kind of a glitzy kind of cut, but it's just so low key. It just depends upon the regard as to how, I mean, this is one that's real difficult to kind of find out about due to word of mouth, just because it doesn't have like an anchored name kind of on there, but it is a pretty glitzy kind of one for just like a random, if you're just looking for hit rap songs, this is a good one, but it just doesn't have the big names on here. So it's kind of vanilla and stock, but it's just kind of not a humongous name in terms of like the songs. There She Goes, like decent strip club joint with some auto tune on there. It's kind of got a pedestrian feel, but the singing is about at like 65% territory. I feel like this is damn near this. I mean, if this had been like a notch or two better, it probably would have been on par with Ray J's hook from She Got Me. Like, the singing is pretty solid, but it's just kind of 65-70% kind of territory, just kind of C-list playbook as far as that kind of goes, but it does have some good auto-tune feels about it. This is a pretty good one just to have for like a strip club night. This is just another kind of stock one and vanilla sounding, vanilla strip club joint as far as that kind of goes. I mean, I definitely think this is a pretty solid lady spot for getting women to kind of shake their rump and that type of stuff as far as that kind of goes. So it's just kind of the concept that it's just not the most festive gem on here. There's definitely ones like Caramel Sunday, both of them, She Got Me Like, Beating Down the Block, that have a little bit more poundingness and just overall thump and just bang to them. But this is pretty good. The singing is just kind of syrupy and kind of decently hypnotic in the right sense. It's kind of one where it's just, I feel like I think the context of folks maybe not knowing who King South kind of is kind of the concept as to this being a little bit more low key and kind of like paltry than what it needs to be, but it is decent enough if you're just looking for some hit songs. This is a good one to kind of fill out some playlists and stuff. So that's kind of the thing. So to talk about some of the complaints about this album, yeah, the 7 songs on here that I don't recommend. For one thing, Certified is just kind of an intro, so that slashes 1, so I guess that would narrow it down to 16 songs. But some of these folks, like First Name, Last Name, and like Look at My Charm, and a lot of these ones like First Name, Last Name, and Look at My Charm, and Dump That, and Up to No Good, and Against the Wall, and some of these type ones, they just don't jump off the page enough to really have that sort of appeal about them. They're just kind of pedestrian. They don't really have like the pizzazz as far as like the addictive quality. I know that Bubba Sparxxx couldn't have been on every song, but I definitely think some more features like Jim Jones should have been on here to really help bolster this a lot more. There just needed to be a little bit more budget thrown into this as far as trying to get some of these cats some shine. I definitely think what I'm going to continue to say what probably would have helped is just having some of these cats be on different songs so you could see their dominance and just get them to break out a little bit better. I just feel like one song representing each artist on here is not enough to really get them the proper shine that they needed. They needed to take the appeal that Bubba Sparxxx kind of had, be on more songs so you get the sense of like who Fatigue is, who Fred P is, who Duro Music is, who 66240 and Playboy are, some of those type people. Alley Boy, OGK, Hustle Boy, King South, some of these people. I definitely think King South could have been on another song. I just think his singing was kind of underused. He probably could have done some more good hooks to really help establish him. But yeah, it was kind of clumsy and cumbersome execution of how some of these songs turned out. There's just a lot of these, like the songs I didn't mention that I don't recommend, are just kind of cumbersome ones that just between the songs only having one song to really show them who they are, and then just not having like enough pizzazz to really jump off the page and really get like some bite to establish dominance, just kind of makes it for like, it just, you probably, if you don't know who they are, I feel like not knowing who these folks are is not the end of the world, just because they didn't really have enough room to really give them their shine that they needed to. So that's just kind of the thing about it. But I look after it like me liking at least 8.5. I would have to say me liking at least 8 songs out of 17 on here, plus 2 almost songs. I would say at least approximately 10 out of 17. I'm going to go ahead and give this album like a 6.75 out of 10. I feel like that's pretty solid. It's about a little bit over middle of the road, I would have to say. Once again, this is a pretty good look for Bubba Sparxxx. If you're just looking at this from a Bubba Sparxxx angle, this is a shining project for him, just because all of his moments on here are pretty exacting. He just nails it pretty well, but he's not on every song. He's only on like 5, 6, maybe 7 at most, something like that. But I just look after the rest of the prospect on here. The rest of these cats just do not do much of anything to establish themselves. There's a couple on here like OGK did pretty good. Hustle Boy snagged Jim Jones. King South has some decent singing. And like the Dirt Reynolds is pretty good with having the second single and stuff. But most of these folks are just pretty pedestrian that you probably wouldn't ever hear from again. So that's kind of the concept about it. But in terms of the social score, I'll give the social score like an 8 out of 10, because there are some gems on here. There's definitely some flash and pizzazz, some nightlife, some evening life, some house party cuts, just a bunch of stuff to kind of have some rumblers and some decent, pretty rock solid party cuts as far as that kind of goes. Lots of good smoking songs and nightclub pizzazz as far as that kind of goes. But it's just the fact that you're just not going to really. A lot of times, I think folks, when they listen to this, would be like, "Who the fuck is this? Who the hell is this?" That type concept. So it's just something to know when you play this and purchase this CD, if you can find it even. This kind of happens to be a thing. But in terms of the future, like Bubba Sparxxx has been up to more things. Like I was saying before, I really don't know what happened to most of these other cats. I mean, you can find them throughout looking on Spotify and stuff, but for the most part, they just didn't seem like they really had an abundance going on. But I would look after it. Bubba Sparxxx has a bunch more projects that we're going to get to and such. That's some good stuff here.